What is up, everybody? It's your boy Bobby from Bobby's Breakdowns coming at you with another video, coming at you with another movie review. This time, it got a little better from the last movie that we saw him. Ugh. Go check out that review. We saw The Smashing Machine. One of the first, he's not the first because he did Gridiron Gang, but one of the very few serious movies of Dwayne Johnson, and it was very interesting. It was pretty good in my opinion, but we'll get into that. So with that being said, let's dive right in. Right off the bat, Dwayne Johnson somehow got much bigger for this role. I think that's why he very much slimmed down after this, but seeing Dwayne with hair, so weird. But we also see him bald later in the movie. That's really weird too. We'll get into that. He's playing the UFC fighter named Mark Kerr. We see Mark Kerr in his debut fight, and he absolutely destroys his first opponent. It's a fight. It's like an indie wrestling event. Not many people are there, but you do have to start somewhere. We see a little montage of his dominance and his eventual championship. So it's kind of cool there. We then see the scene from the trailer where Mark is talking to the old lady and the kid. He gives the kid the autograph and he says, "No fighting. No fighting." We then meet Mark's girlfriend, Dawn. And Dawn keeps messing up his training regimen with what he's eating and what he's doing. And I'm surprised nothing happened between them in the movie. We were waiting for it, truthfully. But we then see Mark taking what allegedly might have been steroids. We're not sure. Can't confirm one way or another. Mark is trying to negotiate with his Japanese partners about more money, and it's just not going well for Mark in negotiations and in life right now. He's hooked on the roids, but he obviously can't negotiate when there's a big language barrier like that. Mark's kind of unraveling at this point. So when he's being interviewed before a fight, they ask him what happens if you lose, and he just can't wrap his head around it. He's like, "I've never lost. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if I'm going to go into a deep dive. I don't know." I don't know this real life story that well, but it's kind of crazy. Dawn then flies to Japan for his fights, and as soon as she walks in the door, Mark just looks at her like I said, I'm surprised he didn't do anything to her in this movie. I was waiting for it, truthfully. Hats off to Emily Blunt. She played Dawn tremendously, but Dawn, if all this in the movie is true, terrible human being. Mark Kerr is no angel, but yikes. They almost get into a physical fight before it gets interrupted. That happens a few times. We find out Mark Kerr's trainer, former fighter named Mark Coleman, legitimate UFC champion in real life. Kerr goes against Igor. Not even going to bother pronouncing his last name. Or maybe that was his last name. And it does not go well for Mark Kerr. Igor uses some illegal knees tactics, which we thought were illegal, but the ref wasn't calling it. Kerr was waiting for the ref to call it, and he never did. Kerr loses. Kerr goes to the locker room and just loses his mind, starts crying. But later on, we find out that the Kerr and Igor fight was ruled a no contest, so Mark is still technically undefeated. Dawn is trying to console him, but Mark just isn't listening. And Mark's like, "Do you mind? I'm trying to speak." Toxic relationship. Mark is in pain, and he's trying to get some of that good stuff in Japan, but they won't budge. They won't give it to him. They give him Tylenol or Advil or whatever. And when they get home, Mark's sitting in the living room, and he is just not there. He's drooling all over the place. Yeah. Dawn tells him pretty much he's got to get it together. If you hear the jingling of bells, that's my cousin's dog, and here she is. Hi, Clover. Hi. So Mark has a plate of food. He places it calmly on the table, punches a hole through the door, rips the door completely off the hinges, picks up the plate of food, and politely cleans it off. Then we get to Mark actually overdosing. So Coleman comes to visit him in the hospital. He's like, "Yeah, I got sick. It was really weird." And Coleman knows he's lying. He's like, "Dude, you gotta kick this. Whatever you gotta do, you gotta kick this." Like I said, Coleman knew what was going on, and he wants him to get better. Coleman then gets back in the ring, and he starts racking up some wins. So Coleman's like a legit threat at this point. So we see Mark outside the fighting world for a bit. He's clean. It's all going well, it looks like. He goes to the carnival with Dawn. And Dawn wants to ride the Gravitron. Now, if you ever remember the Gravitron, that ride messed you up. Me included. At the carnivals. So I was like, oof, brings back some not so good memories. Mark can't ride it though because of his upset tummy. His words, you know. So Dawn goes on it, and instead Mark goes on the merry-go-round. Dwayne Johnson having hair on a merry-go-round. I didn't have that in my 2025 bingo card, but here we are. Mark and Dawn are having some problems, to say the least. Dawn says some not so nice things. Like I said, they portrayed her as a terrible, terrible person in this movie. About him doing rehab and all that. She breaks the antique bowl that Mark got her earlier in the movie and storms out. Then, back to the training, we see the bald guy from like all the Kevin James projects. Buzz Rutten or whatever his name was.
What?
I'm Boss Rutten.
I know him as the dude from the Kevin James movies. And he gets injured and Mark has some leftover supplements. He sticks them into Buzz and Buzz gets healthy again. But he's like, I'm not using these, are leftover. And Buzz is like, I don't care, just help me out, man. We go to the World Tournament to see Mark Coleman and Igor advance. Kerr gets out there, and he advances. He shows he's still got it, even after that time away from the ring. Back to when I mentioned earlier, Dwayne going bald and it being weird, this is it. So at one point, Mark shaves his head completely and goes full Dwayne Johnson, rocking the bald. I guess because of the goatee and the earring they put on Dwayne, it looked weird, and I was like, that doesn't even look like Dwayne. That looks more like Batista. They're about to have another party, Dawn and Mark, before his big fight. But another fight breaks out, and Dawn found out Mark didn't want her in Japan for the fights. So before anything physical can happen, Mark says, pack a bag and leave. So it escalates from there. Dawn goes into the safe, grabs a gun, puts it to her head, and tries to unalive herself. Mark stops her, thankfully, and then she tries to put some drugs in her, and Mark stops her again. Toxic relationship. So then we go to the fight. Coleman wins. He advances on the other side of the bracket. It's the final four at this point. Mark Kerr, like I said earlier, for a guy who didn't know this story, I was shocked he lost. He lost in the final four. I thought it was a collision course between Coleman and Kerr, but it didn't come to be. I was shocked. Mark Coleman ends up going on to win the whole thing. And while Mark Kerr is getting work done, the movie ends with Kerr in the shower, just smoking, and he's smiling. He's laughing. It's kind of weird, which maybe he lost on purpose. I don't know. And Coleman is just sitting there with the belt like, wow, I did this. And in a part I didn't expect, we see the real Mark Kerr to end the movie. Him and Dawn reconnected, got married, had a son. I think I looked it up. They officially called it off completely in like 2015. I think they were on again, off again. Shocking. Kerr and Coleman walked so guys like McGregor and Masvidal could run today, because before these dudes were not getting paid well. And that's kind of the story here, like the rise of UFC. And now that these dudes are getting paid legitimately to get punched in the face, pretty much. And yeah, that was my review of The Smashing Machine. I really enjoyed it. It showed that Dwayne can act. Some people might not agree there, but a solid 7 out of 10. I was thoroughly impressed. Like I said, I didn't know the story, so going in, I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen. It's pretty good in movies at some points. But yeah, I enjoyed it. What did you think of The Smashing Machine? Comment below. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Didn't make a lot of money at the box office, but I think they're banking on the Oscar buzz. I could see Dwayne getting nominated. I could see Emily Blunt getting nominated for it. So maybe they're banking on that. I don't know, but I think we showed that Dwayne can act. That's why he did it. He only got paid $4 million for this movie. Dwayne usually gets at least 20. So took a major pay cut just to do this movie. That's pretty cool. But comment below what you thought. Until next time, you're going to see a trip montage next video, so that's going to be cool. But until next time, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe. Plenty more content coming, folks. And until next time, I am Bobby from Bobby's Breakdowns, and we will see you in the next one. Later.